In the chilly winter of 1985, a curious American black bear roamed through the dense forests of Georgia. The bear's keen senses led it to an unusual object lying on the forest floor. Intrigued, the bear cautiously approached, pawing and tearing at the object until it finally ripped it open. Instantly, the air was filled with an overpowering, floral scent. Within minutes, the bear would undergo an experience that no other living creature on Earth had ever encountered. A moment so bizarre that it would soon capture the world's attention. Now, let's dive into today's story. In early December of 1985, deep within the Chattahoochee National Forest in northern Georgia, a hunter silently moved through the underbrush, tracking a deer. He had been on the trail for over a mile, but the deer had been elusive, and the hunter hadn't seen any signs of it recently. As he pressed on, the hunter became acutely aware of the noise his footsteps made on the dry, leaf-covered ground. The loud crunching underfoot seemed to echo through the forest, making him doubt his chances of a successful hunt. Deciding that his noisy approach was scaring the deer away, the hunter prepared to abandon his pursuit and head back to his vehicle. But just as he was about to turn around, he noticed a clearing ahead. As he cautiously peered through the thick brush, he spotted an animal. But it wasn't the deer he had been tracking. Instead, a massive American black bear was standing in the clearing. Generally, black bears aren't aggressive towards humans, but startling one can provoke a dangerous reaction. The hunter, aware of this, pressed his back against a large rock, gripping his rifle tightly to his chest. He knew that his deer hunting rifle wouldn't be powerful enough to quickly take down the bear, and the thought of a potential confrontation made his heart race. The hunter considered his options. He could try to quietly retreat, but the crunching leaves underfoot might give away his position. Unaliving the bear wasn't a viable option either. His rifle lacked the power to bring down the bear swiftly, and a wounded bear could easily turn on him. As he weighed his choices, the hunter realized something peculiar. He hadn't heard any sounds from the bear. Bears are usually noisy creatures. Their heavy breathing and movement are typically audible from a distance. Yet, this bear had been completely silent. Curious, the hunter cautiously stood up, peeking back into the clearing. To his surprise, the bear was motionless, slumped over as if it had deflated. Realizing the bear was dead, the hunter felt a wave of relief and almost laughed out loud. He stepped out from behind the rock and approached the bear, inspecting it closely. The bear appeared too young to have died of natural causes, but the hunter couldn't find any visible injuries. It seemed as though the bear had simply dropped dead. Puzzled but not overly concerned, the hunter decided there must be a logical explanation for the bear's death. With one last look at the lifeless animal, he turned and began the long walk back to his vehicle. Little did the hunter know, the explanation for the bear's death was far from logical. To uncover the truth, we must travel back in time a few months. On the night of September 10th, 1985, around 11:30 p.m., two pilots were flying a small, six-seater Cessna over northern Georgia, heading towards Tennessee. The flight was routine until they intercepted a strange radio transmission. The pilots overheard another conversation between aircraft, discussing how they were tracking a small Cessna in the area. Realizing the transmission referred to their plane, the co-pilot prepared to respond, but the main pilot stopped him. The pilot confessed that he knew why they were being followed and shockingly informed the co-pilot that they would both need to jump out of the plane. Before the co-pilot could fully process what was happening, the main pilot set the Cessna on autopilot, ensuring it would continue flying in a straight line at a constant speed and altitude. With the plane now on a predetermined course, the pilot led the co-pilot into the main cabin, where their luggage was stored, preparing for what would happen next. The co-pilot, utterly bewildered by the sudden turn of events, found himself in a state of panic, blindly following the main pilot's lead. They clambered over the front seats into the main body of the aircraft, where the main pilot hurriedly began fastening parachutes onto their luggage. With no time to waste, he gestured for the co-pilot to open the side door of the plane. The co-pilot, still reeling from shock, complied, sliding open the door to the roaring night sky. The sudden blast of cold air rushed into the cabin, making communication impossible amidst the howling wind. Without hesitation, the main pilot started shoving the luggage out of the plane, sending it tumbling into the darkness below. The co-pilot, now caught up in the chaos, joined in, pushing the bags out of the aircraft. Once the cargo was dispatched, the main pilot handed the co-pilot a parachute, gesturing for him to put it on. As the co-pilot struggled to secure his parachute, the main pilot, already suited up, abruptly pushed him out of the plane. Moments later, the main pilot jumped after him, abandoning the Cessna, which was still cruising on autopilot toward its inevitable fate. Several hours later, in a quiet Knoxville, Tennessee suburb, 85-year-old Fred Myers was beginning his day. Fred, a man of routine, always woke before sunrise. He would get dressed, wash and shave, and then sit down to read the local paper. This structured morning ritual was especially important to Fred, who had recently been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. His routine helped him maintain a sense of normalcy, allowing him to navigate the morning without confusion. But on this particular morning, something would happen that would leave Fred more disoriented than he had ever been. After washing his face, Fred began shaving when something unusual caught his eye. Through the dim light of early morning, he noticed an odd shape in his driveway, visible through a nearby window. Intrigued, Fred put down his razor and moved closer to get a better look. What he saw left him speechless. A large parachute was sprawled across his driveway, with a man lying motionless on top of it. This man was the main pilot of the Cessna. After pushing the co-pilot out of the plane and jumping himself, the main pilot had encountered a deadly malfunction. His parachute had failed to deploy correctly, and though he managed to activate his reserve chute, it hadn't opened in time to save him from a fatal crash landing. The pilot had hit the ground at near terminal velocity, sustaining catastrophic injuries that claimed his life within minutes. Stunned by the surreal scene, Fred silently turned from the window and walked to his phone, still covered in shaving cream, to call the police. When the authorities arrived, they initially expected to find the body of a recreational skydiver. However, the sight that greeted them was anything but typical. The deceased man was dressed in a bulletproof vest over camouflage fatigues, with night vision goggles strapped to his head. Yet, one detail stood out. He wasn't wearing military boots but expensive Gucci loafers, a stark contrast to his otherwise tactical attire. The police were baffled. Who was this man and what had he been doing? As they began piecing together the puzzle, they were about to uncover a story that would only get stranger. To fully understand what transpired, we must jump forward 2 months to late November 1985, just 2 weeks before a hunter made a shocking discovery in the Chattahoochee National Forest. At that time, the black bear that would later be found dead by the hunter was alive and well, living its usual life in the vast woods of northern Georgia. On one particular day, while searching for food, the bear came across something unusual on the forest floor: a large, heavy duffel bag, one of the many that had been jettisoned from the doomed Cessna. The bear, driven by curiosity and the hope of finding something edible, tore into the bag with its powerful claws. As the bag ripped open, the air around the bear was filled with a potent, flowery scent. The bear, captivated by the smell, plunged its nose into the bag, sniffing and licking at the contents. Whatever was inside, the bear found it irresistible and consumed it all. But this meal was unlike anything the bear had ever eaten. Fueled by a sudden burst of energy, the bear bolted through the forest, sprinting at full speed. However, after covering about 100 yards, every major system in the bear's body shut down simultaneously, and it collapsed, dead on the spot. 2 weeks later, a hunter stumbled upon the bear's lifeless body and, within a day, shared his discovery with a friend. While recounting the story, the hunter mentioned the duffel bag he had seen near the bear. Little did he know, this casual remark would set off a chain of events that would reveal the full extent of the bizarre circumstances surrounding the bear's death. To grasp what happened next, a bit of background is essential. By this time, the police had unraveled much of the mystery surrounding the dead man found in Fred Myers' driveway. They identified him as Andrew Thornton, a 40-year-old former U.S. Army paratrooper. However, after leaving the military, Andrew had strayed down a dark path, becoming a notorious smuggler of illicit goods. The investigation revealed that Andrew had been piloting the Cessna that later crashed into a mountainside in North Carolina. His co-pilot, who had survived the jump, was quickly located by authorities. The co-pilot, visibly shaken, explained that he had been deceived by Andrew, who had initially promised a simple vacation trip to the Bahamas. But as the plan unraveled mid-flight, Andrew had unexpectedly ordered him to push the luggage out of the plane and jump. Terrified and confused, the co-pilot complied with Andrew's demands, fearing for his life. He confirmed to the police that Andrew was indeed the main pilot and that they had jettisoned the bags over a forest in northern Georgia. Authorities believed the co-pilot's account and did not charge him with any crimes. Following these revelations, law enforcement launched an extensive search across northern Georgia, recovering most of the missing bags. However, a few remained unaccounted for, and the search intensified. Around the same time, the hunter who had stumbled upon the dead bear mentioned to a friend that he had seen a duffel bag in the Chattahoochee National Forest, not far from where the bear lay. This friend, aware of the police's public appeals for information about missing bags in the area, promptly contacted the authorities. Thrilled by the tip, law enforcement officers rushed to the Chattahoochee National Forest, locating the area where the bear was found. Sure enough, about 100 yards away from the bear's carcass, they discovered one of the elusive bags. However, it was empty. The authorities, suspecting the worst, decided to bring the bear's body back for an autopsy. During the examination, the medical examiner discovered that the bear's stomach was, in his words, packed to the brim with illegal substance. This discovery finally explained the bear's mysterious death. It had succumbed to an enormous overdose of illegal substance. But the tale of the bear, later dubbed Illegal Substance Bear, didn't end with its untimely death. Instead of cremating the bear as is customary, the medical examiner inexplicably chose to have it taxidermied. The bear was then donated to the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, but its journey didn't stop there. Over the next 2 decades, the bear changed hands multiple times, often under unclear circumstances. At one point, it was reportedly stolen from a storage facility, then sold at a pawn shop, and even ended up in the possession of country music legend Waylon Jennings. Eventually, the bear found a permanent home. Today, it is displayed at the Kentucky Fun Mall in Lexington, Kentucky, where it has become something of a local attraction. Around its neck hangs a sign reading Illegal Substance Bear, immortalizing its strange and tragic story. So that wraps up today's bizarre tale. And that, my friends, is the unbelievable story of the infamous Illegal Substance Bear. A tragic yet bizarre moment in history where nature crossed paths with human folly. From the dense forests of Georgia to a mall in Kentucky, this bear's journey is one that will continue to baffle and intrigue. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more strange and eerie tales. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.